Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is McKay Allen and I am the content manager at Log My Calls, and we're really excited you're here today. We got a good crowd on today's webinar, and the content will be really good, so we're excited you're here. It should be a good time. A few announcements before we begin. First, the webinar is being recorded, so if you have any questions or if you want to share this webinar with anybody, or you want to have something specifically addressed in the question and answer period that you want to go back and listen to, just keep in mind that it'll be recorded. We'll make that recording available to you tomorrow morning. Second, as you go throughout the webinar, we hope that it'll spur questions. Feel free to type those questions into the little question bar, and Phil will address those as we go and at the conclusion, but predominantly at the conclusion. And then finally, we host these webinars every week at Log My Calls. logmycalls.com/webinar is where you go. And that is a great resource for you to, listen to our past webinars. There's over 85 recorded webinars in that webinar library, ranging from on topics ranging from mobile marketing to PPC to SEO to content marketing, to new strategies and tactics. So it's really a treasure trove of information, and then you can also see our upcoming webinars as well. And just to give you a little bit of background on who Log My Calls is, what we do, Log My Calls is a call tracking and call recording solution. So what we do is we help businesses determine which campaigns, ads, keywords, etc. are producing phone calls and which aren't. And that allows you to manage your marketing spend more efficiently and determine those things you should keep doing and stop doing from a marketing perspective. And then, of course, it also provides call recording, which is useful in a lot of business settings. So with that, I do want to introduce Main Street ROI and Phil. Phil is the co-founder and managing partner of Main Street ROI. He leads the company's operations right now. Main Street ROI helps small businesses determine how to spend their marketing dollars better, and provides training and resources for those businesses to become better marketers. Phil is a marketing genius, to say the least. His articles and his speeches have appeared all over the web, and we're excited he's agreed to join us today. So he is an AdWords expert, and the content will be really good. So with that, Phil, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right, great. Can you hear me, McKay?
Yeah, your audio is great.
Perfect. Want to thank you for that excellent introduction. Appreciate it, and want to also thank you and the Log My Calls team for organizing this webinar. Really excited to be here, and for everyone that is here, welcome to the 5 simple steps to profit with Google AdWords. Just got some housekeeping to get out of the way. As McKay said, you can post questions to the Q&A section that's right in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And then we'll get to those during the webinar and at the end. And then I always like to recommend everyone just turn off any distractions like email. Definitely shut off your email, shut down Facebook, turn off any of the YouTube videos you're watching. Just get the most out of this presentation if you don't have any of those distractions. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, I'm going to share 3 lessons that I learned the hard way, and you'll see very soon why I'm saying I learned them the hard way, the painful way. I'm going to talk about why AdWords works so well for businesses. But I'm also going to talk about why businesses lose money with AdWords. And I'm actually in the process of auditing a lot of my clients' Google AdWords accounts since the migration to enhanced campaigns. That was a big update recently with Google AdWords. And I'm just seeing the same mistakes over and over again. I'm going to highlight those on this webinar and show you how you can fix that. Then, of course, I'm going to talk about the 5 steps to profit with Google AdWords. And then finally, for everyone that's attending today, I have a special gift at the end so that you can get started today. All right, so out of respect for everyone's time, I want to talk about who this presentation is for. And it's really, if you're just getting started with Google AdWords, then you're going to get basically the 5-step formula to profitably advertise so that you're making money on day 1. If you're already running ad campaigns, then I'm going to give you a checklist to go through so you can audit your own campaigns yourselves and find areas to improve. If you're planning to hire a company, then by the end of this presentation you'll have what I call the BS detector, so you can go out there, interview some companies to set up and manage your campaigns and not get taken advantage of. Or if you already hired a company, this again is going to give you a checklist to just make sure they're doing a good job for you. Or if you provide marketing services, for example, if you're an SEO company or a PR agency and you want to add Google Adwords advertising into the mix to provide even more value and make even more money from your clients, then again I'm going to give you the 5-step formula to do just that. As McKay introduced, I am the founder of Street ROI, and we provide marketing training and consulting to primarily small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. I have 7 years of experience managing Google AdWords campaigns, and since then I've managed over $7 million of my money and my clients' money, and I'm currently managing about $200,000 per month for my private clients, and most importantly, profitably advertising. So everything I do is direct response advertising. It's not branding. I'm actually tracking, down to the penny, how much money we're spending, and then how much money is being generated for the business to calculate that return on investment. And I've also been featured in, my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex Open Forum, and Mashable. And I want to explain all that so that you know that this is not going to be a presentation full of theory. It's not going to be regurgitated, just Google best practices. This is actually what I do for my clients, and as I said, what I do to actually generate profitable AdWords campaigns. And I'm also the very proud father of my daughter there, Violet, and that's my wife there, Erin. Violet is now, she's going to be 7 months tomorrow, and this is a picture of us recently out on Block Island, Rhode Island for a wedding. All right, so before I get into the 5 steps to profit with Google AdWords, I want to tell you a very brief story about how I got started. And as I said earlier, I managed more than $7 million in Google AdWords advertising, and through a lot of trial and error, I figured out what really works, what doesn't work, and what sounds like it'll work, and you'll read about these things, but it really does not work no matter how hard you try. So basically, I've invested about $7 million to master Google AdWords, and even with the ridiculous costs of education these days, $7 million is a large chunk of change to invest in your education. But it was literally worth every single penny because I now have a process where I can generate a steady flow of leads and sales for my business and my client's business. And it all started when I applied for my first job out of college. I found an ad for an entrepreneur's apprentice. And I'm not talking about Donald Trump's apprentice. It was for Dave Levinsky, who's the founder of Growth Inc. And Growth Inc. is a leading business planning company. And this looked like the perfect job for me because right out of college, I really wanted to start my own company. But I was smart. I knew I wasn't ready yet because I had no idea how I was going to generate leads and sales. And as everyone knows, if you don't know how to generate sales, you're not going to be in business for long. So I found this ad, took the job, and Dave took me under his wing. And he taught me everything he knew about Google AdWords back then. And within literally just a few weeks, I had an ad budget of about $50,000. And I thought this was really cool because I was just out of college, about 2 weeks into my job. I was in charge of an ad budget of about $500,000 per year. And I don't know if that was a smart decision on Dave's part, but I was pretty excited, and none of my friends could say they were doing that. So everything was going smoothly, and we were running the ads, everything was profitable. But then I made one little mistake. I tested a new strategy that I just learned, but I did not set a maximum budget, so I ended up losing $9,000 in about 24 hours. That was obviously a very bad day in the office, but miraculously, Dave did not fire me, and he actually allowed me to learn from this mistake and other mistakes not as bad as that, and that was critical to why I was able to master Google AdWords, because I did make mistakes, but you got to learn from that, and that's really allowed me to create the process that I'm going to go through today. So I'll never forget that day, but it's always a reminder, and I'll never forget it, because you always have to have a process and a checklist to successfully set up and manage Google AdWords campaigns. If you try to go out there without the proper information, without a checklist, and you just try to wing it, then you're really putting yourself at risk to lose hundreds and even thousands of dollars very quickly. All right, so here are the 3 advertising lessons that I learned the hard way. And the first one here is what I was just talking about. So if you want to be successful with Google AdWords, you absolutely must have a system and a process to set up, monitor, and then optimize your campaigns. You really don't want to wait until you lose $9,000 like I did to create this process in a checklist. And I told you that very embarrassing story to highlight probably the most important lesson in this presentation. So if you get nothing out of this, I hope you'll remember lesson number 2 here, which is that you must track your return on investment from your Google AdWords ads. And there's really no excuses. You should be able to set up the proper tracking to calculate the ROI of your ad campaigns. And the only way that I knew I had lost $9,000 that day was because I would run a report, and it showed me exactly how much money I spent on advertising and how much money was generated directly from those ads. And if you can't do that, then you're simply flying blind, and you don't know whether or not your ads are making you money, or you're just throwing money down the drain, and the only one winning there is Google because you're paying them money. And that brings us to lesson number 3, which is, as long as you are in fact tracking your return on investment, there's really no such thing as a failure. So you're going to run tests, and you're going to collect a lot of data, and it's really like paying for market research. And obviously it does cost money, but it's truly an investment. So you're investing in your ad campaign to learn and figure out how to consistently generate new customers month after month. So you really need to change the mindset from spending money on ads to actually investing to learn and eventually create that system that you're putting in $1 and it's making you $1.50. And I always like to say, even when Thomas Edison was struggling to invent the light bulb, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And it's very similar to the AdWords process of testing. You're gonna find some ways that do not work. You're gonna test some keywords. They're not gonna work, but eventually you're gonna find those keywords and those ads, and you're gonna create that system that's just month after month generating leads and sales. Excuse me, just had to get some water there. So after Dave was helping me out, I worked for him for about 5 years, and I eventually left to start Main Street ROI. And as I said, we teach businesses how to create and manage effective online marketing campaigns. And our motto here is online marketing made simple. And we're really different from other agencies and consultants out there because we focus on training and educating other businesses like we're doing on this webinar. And essentially, my mission is to be the type of mentor to small business owners that Dave was to me. So I'm really here today to show you the ropes about Google AdWords and show you what really works so that you can learn without having to go through your own painful and very expensive trial and error like I did. All right, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page about what I'm talking about when I say Google AdWords, because there are some misconceptions out there. So Google AdWords is both a search and a display advertising platform. But for the purposes of this presentation here, we're going to focus on only the search advertising, so only the search network. And that's primarily ads on Google.com. So if you see the screen here, this is an example showing you a page on Google.com after you search New York City dentist. And you'll see at the top there are 3 advertisers, and you'll see they're highlighted with that yellow background. Those are Google AdWords advertisers, and along the right column there also are some ads along that section, and those are all Google AdWords advertisers, and they're all bidding on the keyword New York City dentist. And if anyone clicks on their ad, they pay for that click, which then sends that person to their website. And that's why you'll typically hear people call this PPC advertising, and that stands for pay per click advertising, because you pay Google every time someone clicks on your ad. And as I said, everyone here is bidding on that keyword New York City dentist. So the word or the phrase that's typed into Google is also called a keyword. And you basically bid to get ranked in the search results here. So for example, the top advertiser might be bidding $5 per click, and the second advertiser might be bidding $4 per click. Typically, the more you bid, the higher you will rank. However, I'm going to show you later in this presentation that's not always the case. You can actually pay less per click than the advertisers who rank below you. So the number 1 advertiser could be paying $4 per click, while the person ranked below him is paying $5 per click. And I'm going to show you why that is the case in a minute. But for now, I just wanted to show you what we're actually talking about when I say Google AdWords search ads. So why does Google AdWords work so well? And why do I think it's such a good investment for businesses? Well, there's really 3 main reasons. And the first one is that it's extremely targeted. So your ads are only going to appear when your prospects are literally searching for your product or service in Google. So your prospects are going to Google every day, typing in some words into Google, typing in keywords, because they want to find what it is you have to offer. So you're getting your advertisement right in front of them at the exact time that your prospect's looking to buy. And that's just extremely powerful when you think about it. And when you compare that to other forms of advertising where you're not really sure if the prospect is really looking for what you have to offer. The second reason is one of my favorites. I'm a bit of a data geek. So it's actually possible to measure every step in your sales funnel of an AdWords campaign. So you'll be able to measure exactly how many people saw your ad. You'll measure how many people clicked on your ad. And then you can also, when you do this correctly, you'll see how many people contacted you, called you, and eventually turned into a customer or client for you. Excuse me. And again, those metrics are not as easy to measure in other forms of advertising. And finally here, the third reason is that AdWords is really less risky than a lot of other ad networks or advertising platforms, because you only pay when your prospect clicks on your ad. So essentially, you're paying for performance. If no one clicks on your ad, no one likes your ad, it's not resonating with your prospects, then you don't pay a penny. You only pay if your ad actually resonates with your prospect and she clicks on the ad to go learn more. All right, I promised I would talk about why businesses lose money. Despite all of the three benefits there, businesses do unfortunately lose money trying to set up their ad campaigns. And a lot of it is not their fault. It's because of the way AdWords is set up and the AdWords default settings. And I'm gonna talk about this later in this presentation. This is really easy to fix. It's just a matter of actually, clicking the right settings in your account. So we'll be able to fix that really quickly. The second reason is because a lot of businesses, unfortunately, don't understand how successful AdWords advertising really works. And a lot of it comes down to fundamentals. A lot of people talk about Google AdWords and they talk about quality scores, which you may have heard of, different types of bidding tips and tricks, different automation tools that are out there. A lot of people really dig into those details, but what I find, and I've audited a lot of Google AdWords accounts, is that it's much more basic than that. It really comes down to advertising best practices and fundamentals. The third reason, I'll keep hammering this point, again, when I audit AdWords campaigns, I go through a very thorough checklist, and rarely do I not find an account that is just wasting a lot of money, either from a very simple account setting that they need to tweak, or again, just some fundamental advertising best practices that they're not doing properly. And finally, the fourth reason why a lot of businesses unfortunately lose money in AdWords is because they do not track their return on investment. They're not tracking their leads and their sales. And this is always shocking to me when I take a look at an account and I notice there's no conversion tracking, and I know that that business is just spending money and they have no way to match the leads and sales to that investment that they made. So maybe they invested $500 that month. They generated sales, but they don't know where those sales came from, so they're not sure if the AdWords account is profitable or not. And there's no reason for that, because as you'll see in a minute, it's not that hard to get this set up. And there's no way to optimize a campaign if you don't have this set up. So it's just really critical to have proper tracking in place. All right, now let's get to the good stuff here. I'm going to go through the 5 steps to profit with Google AdWords. And I'll actually show them to you right now. First step here is to know your numbers. Second step is to choose the right keywords. Third, we'll talk about writing compelling ads. Fourth, I'll talk about how to create a high converting landing page. And a conversion would just be generating a lead or a sale. And fifth, I've talked about this a lot, how to use the correct campaign settings. All right, so before you even go and create an account on Google AdWords, you really need to take this critical first step to understand just your basic business metrics. And the question you're trying to answer is, how much can you afford to pay per click to generate one new customer? Because again, you're paying Google per click on your ads. So the key there, how much can you actually afford to pay and still be profitable? And that number is, we're going to calculate that number, and then that's going to determine which keywords you can actually target, because some keywords are going to be too expensive for you. So when we start doing the keyword research in step 2, we want to know how much can you actually afford to pay, because if you can only afford to pay $2 per click and the keyword is $5, that keyword is going to be off limits for you until you basically improve your conversions and increase your the amount you can afford to pay. Now, most businesses do struggle with this question. I'm sure a lot of folks on the line are not sure of the answer. And you basically need to answer more questions before you can answer this question. So let's go through those. You need to understand your profit per customer. You can break that down into, say, your 90-day profit or your 30-day profit. Really depends on your business, how long of a time frame you want to use for basically your lifetime value of a customer. Next, you want to look at your target ad profit margin. So if you're going to be advertising, what are you comfortable with in terms of a profit margin? Do you need it to be 30%? Do you need it to be 50%? That's going to, again, depend on you and your business. If you generate a lot of sales from people calling in, then you need to understand how many phone calls it takes to convert someone to a customer. So if you get 10 phone calls, do you get one sale, in which case you have a 10% call to sale conversion rate? You need to figure that out. And then how many calls will you get per website visitors? So are you going to get one call per 100 visitors, for example? Now, based on all of these numbers, we'll be able to calculate basically the break-even cost per click of generating a new customer. So here's an example. Let's say that your 90-day profit per customer is $1,250. Your target profit margin is 25%. You get 10% of people to turn into customers that call you. So 1 out of 10 people that call you, you'll convert to a sale. And 5% of visitors will actually pick up the phone and call you. Now, if you're not sure what these numbers are, you'll need to basically guesstimate at this point, or you can dig into your analytics, look at some of your historical close ratios based on phone calls, get some rough estimates here, and if you run these numbers based on this example, you'll see that your maximum cost per click would be $4.69. As soon as you pay more than that, you're not going to get the target profit margin that you're looking for, or you may go actually negative. You may actually lose money on those ads. All right, so now that we've figured out the maximum cost per click, we want to use that number to help us choose the right keywords. And again, the keyword is just the words that are typed into Google that trigger your ads. And in this example, you can see on my screen, the keyword here would be New York City dentist. So it's obviously very critical at this stage here to pick the right keywords, because if you're going after keywords that no one searches, you're not going to generate any traffic and any sales. Or if you're going after keywords that are not really relevant for your business, where people aren't really looking for what you have to offer, then again you're not going to generate any sales. So there's really 3 areas that I look for. I basically use this as a checklist to assess different keyword opportunities. And the first one here is that it needs to be searched in Google, and that's very easy to find out. We're going to use Google's keyword tool. If you go to google.com and type in keyword tool, the first result there will be Google's keyword tool. That will tell you whether or not the keyword is in fact searched in Google. Because obviously if it's not searched, no one's searching it, you're not going to, it's a waste of time to advertise on that keyword. Second is really important. It needs to be searched by your target prospects. So it needs to be a relevant keyword for your business. And the third one is even more critical. So it needs to obviously be searched in Google, searched by your prospects, but even more importantly, it needs to be searched by your prospect who's looking to make a purchase. And that's what we call buying intent. So that takes it a little bit a step further when you're doing your keyword research. You want to look at the intent that the prospect has when she's typing that phrase into Google. For example, the two buckets that I put a keyword into are either research or buying intent. And if it's a research keyword, that means the prospect is most likely just doing research. She's not really ready to buy. She's not looking to hire anyone right now. Versus a buying intent keyword, that person is ready to actually pick up the phone, call you, or make a purchase straight from your website. And now, the reason that's so important is because you're going to find that some keywords may get searched a lot in Google, but they don't have buying intent. And if that's the case, you can get tricked into thinking, oh, that's a really good keyword. It has a lot of people are searching on it. If I could just get my ads in front of those people, I'm going to generate a lot of sales. That's not necessarily the case unless they have intent to make a purchase. That's really important because, again, you're going to find keywords that have a lot of search, and you may think, I want to advertise there. But you actually should most likely advertise on the keyword that has less search but more buying intent. And let's look at an example. So right here, this is for a chiropractor and a chiropractor in San Francisco, and I'm going to compare these two keywords. So we've got the first keyword here, which is back pain, and if you go to Google's keyword tool, I did this a while ago, the numbers may be different now, but it's roughly 40,500 searches every single month in the United States for the keyword back pain. Now, the keyword San Francisco chiropractor only gets searched 480 times per month. So if you're a chiropractor, you may be thinking it's better to advertise on back pain. That's highly relevant, and it gets searched way more than San Francisco chiropractor. But let's look at the three criteria. So the first criteria is to make sure that the keywords are searched in Google. I already gave that away. They're both searched in Google. Are they searched by your prospect? I could definitely see someone interested in hiring a chiropractor might go to Google and type in back pain because they have back pain. So I think that keyword fits that, and I think obviously someone searching San Francisco chiropractor is a prospect for a chiropractor. So they both pass those two tests. Now when you get to this third one, and that's why I think this is the most critical criteria here, are they searching to make a purchase or to schedule an appointment with a chiropractor? And that's where back pain just really, it doesn't make the cut, because someone searching back pain, they could just be doing research on different forms of back pain. It could even be a medical student, someone in college just doing a research paper and they're typing in back pain to do research. It could really be a lot of different scenarios. There's a lot of reasons why that would not be a prospect for a chiropractor, and that's why you should actually, if you're a chiropractor in San Francisco, you would advertise on San Francisco chiropractor and not advertise on back pain, even though there's way more search for back pain. And that all comes down to the intent of that keyword. All right, so now let's move on to the third step, which is to write compelling ads. So your ad is what's going to show up after your prospect types the keyword into Google. And in the examples here, this is for the keyword plumber in New York City. So I did a search in Google, plumber in New York City. I found these two ads, and you'll see that the ad includes a headline at the top. This headline is Contact New York Plumbers. Then there are two description lines. So you don't get a lot of space. You can only get 35 characters for each line in the description here. And the third component is what's called your display URL. In this case, it's elocalplumbers.com/new-york. So that's what makes up your ad. It's the headline, the description, and the display URL. And you can see here this advertiser is doing a really good job of utilizing the display URL by putting in the location of New York. So that's a nice little tip that the advertiser number 2 is not really using the display URL to improve that ad. All right, so before I get to how to write your ads, I want to just take a step back and talk about why your ads are so important. Obviously, your ads are important because when your prospect is searching, you need your ad to stand out, and that's going to compel them to click on your ad to drive traffic to your website to eventually convert to a sale. That part's obvious, but what's not obvious is that your ad is actually going to affect your quality score. And I mentioned this early in the presentation that advertisers can be ranked number 1 and actually be paying less per click than advertisers ranked number 2. So I'm going to explain why that is the case. So Google actually is going to give you a discount and better ad position if your ad has a higher click-through rate. And click-through rate just means your how often your ad gets clicked versus how many times the ad is displayed in Google.com. And that's called an ad impression. So it's number of clicks divided by ad impressions is your click-through rate. So if you think about it, Google's only going to make money when people click on your ads. So it's in their best interest to reward advertisers who write really compelling ads that get clicked more often than everyone else. And they do that by, as you can see here, they're gonna move your ad to a higher position, basically give it better and more prominent position on Google.com because they want to make more money. They're going to give you a better position to get people to click on it even more, and they're actually going to give you a discount. So they're going to reward you for writing good ads. I guess the better way to think about it is they're penalizing people who don't write good ads. So they'll reward you, but if you write bad ads, they basically are going to push your ad down in the rankings and increase your cost per click to try to drive you out of the search results because they don't want you there. You're not really making them any money, and you're not helping their users. So here's a really basic example to prove this point. If advertiser A here is paying $1 cost per click, that's CPC, and their click-through rate, CTR, is 5%. So they're getting clicked 5% of the time, paying $1 per click. That means Google makes 5 cents every time they show that ad. Now, advertiser B is paying 3 times as much, $3 per click, but their ads are only getting clicked 1% of the time. So Google's only making 3 cents per ad impression. So clearly, it's in Google's best interest to make sure that advertiser A is shown on the page more prominently so that Google makes more money. So that's the basics around why Google rewards you for a higher click-through rate, and you get a higher click-through rate by writing really compelling ads. So that's why this is so important. And it's really what I call a win-win-win situation, excuse me, because Google's happy. They're obviously going to make more money showing your ad, and Google's users are actually more happy because if they're clicking on the ad, that means they're finding what they want. So if they're not finding what they want, they don't click on the ad, and that's really why Google basically penalizes the ad that is not getting clicked on. They don't want you in the search results because you're not really satisfying their users. And then obviously you're happy because you're going to get more traffic at lower cost when you write really compelling ads. All right, so now that you know why it's so important, let's talk about how to write great ads. The first concept you need to understand is benefits versus features. You always want to remember that your customer really only cares about him or herself. She's selfish. She's searching in Google. She's thinking, what's in it for me? That's really the question everyone's thinking about when they're looking at the ads. They don't care really about who they're the exact details of the business. They don't want company-focused ads. They want to understand what's in it for me. So the example I like to use is if I'm doing a search because I have a clogged bathtub and no one in my house can take a shower because of that clogged bathtub. I've got a serious problem on my hands. I do a search, how to unclog bathtubs, or best plumber to unclog bathtubs. Now in that case, I'm thinking what's in it for me whenever I'm looking at those ads. I don't care if the business has been around for 10 years. That doesn't help my situation. I don't care if the business has helped 1,000 customers. Again, that's not helping my situation. I don't care what kind of equipment they use. All I care about is how they're going to solve my problem right now, right at this very moment. How are they going to unclog my drain, and how can they basically guarantee that this is going to get fixed? So rather than listing all of those, what I would call company-focused benefits, you need to focus on customer-focused benefits and talk about relate all of those to how it's going to actually benefit the customer. So how is it going to unclog the toughest drains within minutes? That's what I'm looking for. So quickly unclogging the drains, and your ad just needs to be very explicit and talk about that exact benefit that you're going to provide. So take a look at your ads. Just make sure that you're talking about benefits for the customer versus just features about your product or service. Now the second one here, which is labeled 1 for some reason, so that should be a 2 there. Number 2 is your strong offer, and ads that have an actual offer are always going to get more clicks than an ad that has no offer or just no call to action. So if we use our plumber example again, you could use a risk reversal offer. That would be a really compelling offer to use, to have something like, we'll unclog your drain within, call it 15 minutes, or we'll pay for a second plumber to come in and fix the drain. So that would be a really compelling offer, and if you're a good plumber and you can actually fulfill on that, that's going to attract a lot of people to click on your ad versus a lot of those, what I would call vanilla ads that you typically see in Google AdWords. And finally, the third concept is your call to action. You really just don't want to leave any doubt in the prospect's mind about what they need to do to get started with you and make a purchase. So if you want a phone call, I recommend you put calls today in your ad. If you want them to schedule an appointment, put that in the ad, schedule an appointment now. So the goal there is just make it very clear, what is that next step, what do you actually want your prospect to do, and just don't make them think about it. Just make it brain dead simple. They see your ad, they know exactly what to do. So here are 2 real examples, and these are coming from a client of ours who's a chiropractor in San Francisco. The offer is obviously to save 50% on the first visit, and the benefit is clearly stated in the second ad as get relief now. So we're targeting people who are in pain and who are looking for fast relief. And the call to action in the first ad here is to save money, save 50%, and in the second ad it's to get relief. All right, so the fourth component is your landing page. And your landing page is simply the page that the person lands on after they click on your ad. Excuse me. And this is obviously important because you've just captured your prospect's attention with the compelling ad. Now you don't want to waste this opportunity. You need to convert them on your landing page. So by far the number one goal here is to get your prospect to take action. So again, if you want them to call, you want to make that call to action very prominent, or if it's to schedule an appointment, by completing a form, for example, make that very prominent, make that pop out of the page. And here's the number one mistake that I see over and over again. It's using your home page as the landing page. So on your website right now, if you go to your home page, it's going to talk about every service you do. It's going to talk about all the different products you have. And it's really going to try to address all the different prospects that you have as well. But what's really cool, and one of the main benefits of Google AdWords, is you can tell a lot about your prospect based on the keyword that they typed into Google. So if they typed, for example, if you're an attorney, and we have a client who's a real estate attorney, but he's also a debt collector attorney. So he does debt collections and he does real estate. And on his homepage, he talks about both of those. Now, if the keyword is New York real estate attorney, excuse me, you know right away they want real estate. They don't want debt collection. So don't send them to your homepage. Send them to a dedicated page that is about your real estate law practice. So that's by far the number one mistake I see with landing pages, using your homepage. You really want to be laser focused with your homepage and match, again, the intent of the keyword being searched. And finally, what this all comes down to is congruence. So again, look at the keyword that's being searched. What is the intent? What are they actually looking for? Answer the question, what's in it for me? Put that in your ad, and then carry that through to the landing page. So you could have the best keywords for your business. You could have the best ad, but if you're then sending the traffic to your homepage, the prospect is going to get really confused. They've gone from, thinking they found exactly what they want, clicking on the ad, and then going to a page that is about all the different services you provide, and it's talking as if, trying to relate the message to all the different types of prospects, and you're going to lose the interest of that prospect you have right there, where you already know so much about them, and you want to use that information on a dedicated landing page. All right, so the 6 must-have elements on your landing page, and again, you can use this as a checklist. You're going to want to have a strong headline. Typically, you're going to want to match your headline to the ad that the person clicked on, which again is going to be congruent with the keyword. You, of course, want to have relevant, benefit-focused copy, and that's, again, why your homepage is never a good landing page. You want to try to incorporate social proof, so have testimonials, video testimonials, text testimonials. Try to include images of previous clients and customers. Any credibility indicators. This can really be as simple as having contact information just to show that you're a legitimate business. Unfortunately, there are fraudulent online-only businesses, so the more contact information and more credibility you show, the better. I mentioned this before, using risk reversal. So if you can guarantee anything to remove the risk, you're going to increase how many people actually contact you on your landing page. And then finally, of course, you need that call to action. You just want to make it very obvious on your landing page, what should the prospect do to start doing business with you. And here's an example here. One of our private clients, Digio. And you can see here they're targeting the keyword or keywords related to sell ebooks. So that is their headline that they're using, sell ebooks. They're using very benefit-focused copy here. Their call to action, sell your ebook in 15 seconds. You can't see it here, but they have testimonials below the page here. It got cut off. They even have a live chat feature, and they have links to contact information for credibility. Their offer is a risk-free trial. You can sign up. It's free, so that's always good. People love free. I've probably missed a couple of those points, but they do have all 6 of the key elements I just talked about. All right, finally, 5th step here. So once you have your keywords, you've got your ads, your landing pages, you're almost ready, but I mentioned this before, you need to make sure you have the correct campaign settings. And unfortunately, this one's a biggie. So there's different types of keywords that you can put into your account. There's broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And by default, Google makes your keywords broad match. What that means is you're basically telling Google, I want to match as many keywords as possible related to the phrase I'm putting in my account, which means you're giving up a lot of control. You're telling Google, display my ad on anything you think is relevant to my keyword. Clearly there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. Google's trying to make a lot of money. You're trying to generate sales and be really focused with your ads. It doesn't really always work out. I just audited a campaign this morning for an IT services company in Fort Worth, Texas. He was using broad match, and all of his keywords were related to IT services, IT consultant, but he was showing up when people search for Fort Worth, Texas. That is about as broad as you can get. There's no intent to make a purchase, but he's showing there because he has broad match keywords, and Google is showing him because Google thinks that's a related keyword. So obviously, I don't recommend you use broad match. I recommend you use phrase match and exact match. Exact is pretty easy to explain. You're only going to show your ads on the exact phrase that's in your account. So the same example, IT consultant, if that's your keyword, you're only going to show up if someone searches IT consultant. Now, if you had phrase match IT consultant, you would show up if that phrase is in the keyword typed into Google. So IT consultant in Fort Worth, Texas would still trigger your ad because the phrase IT consultant was in the keyword that the prospect typed into Google. So the key here, when you're starting out, I do not recommend you use broad match. I recommend phrase and exact match. And if you use phrase match, you typically are going to need to use negative keywords. Negative keyword tells Google, I do not want my ad to show up when this word is in the phrase that's typed into Google. Great example is if you sell new BMWs, you're a car dealership, then you would most likely negative match the keyword used, because you don't sell used cars, you sell new cars. So anyone typing in used BMW is not a good prospect for you. You'd want a negative match on that keyword used. Another common negative match keyword is the word free. People searching for free things typically don't like to buy things, so you might want a negative match on free. Another very common mistake is not understanding the difference between the search network and the display network, and they are completely different. The search network is people searching for your product or service. The display network is just millions of websites out there. It includes YouTube. It also even includes Gmail, and just a lot of news sites, a lot of blogs, where you can have your ads show up on those websites, but people are not actively searching for you, so it's a different mentality, a different strategy, and usually different types of ads and landing pages. So you never want to advertise on both search and display in the same campaign. You need different strategies for both networks. So if you're just starting out, and this presentation was about search, always recommend you only target the search network and turn off the display network. And finally, the fourth setting here is the mother of all campaign settings, conversion tracking. Again, if you get nothing else out of this, I hope you remember you absolutely need to have conversion tracking set up so that you can measure your leads and sales and be able to calculate your return on investment. Now, I do not have time to go over this example, but basically this was an example of why tracking is so important. We actually improved one of our clients' profitability by 50% just by setting up proper conversion tracking. We found a campaign was losing $1,600 per month. We turned that campaign off, reallocated that budget to the profitable campaigns, and then the result then was that we boosted profits by 50%. So that's why conversion tracking is just so critical. You could be running ads and actually be losing money in some campaigns, making money in other campaigns, but it looks like you're either making a little bit of money or losing a little bit of money. So here's a quick recap. We talked about knowing your numbers, knowing how much you can spend per click, choosing what I call buying intent keywords, writing compelling ads that are benefit focused, creating a high converting landing page, and I gave you the checklist of the key elements, and of course using the correct campaign settings. And by attending this webinar, I would say you've taken the most critical step towards improving your AdWords advertising, but obviously the next step is to actually take action, and I mentioned I wanted to give you a free gift here. So I want to help you out, help you get started today by giving you our step-by-step guide to Google AdWords. This is normally $97. I'll give it to you for free by attending this webinar, and I just ask that you pay for the shipping and handling of $9.95. So this guide's going to walk you through everything we just covered. It's going to go into much more detail, talk about keyword research, ad copywriting tips, landing page optimization tactics, campaign and account setup, and of course how to track your return on investment using conversion tracking. And I just had a couple testimonials from our previous customers here. Rishi, founder of Digio, he actually has another successful business. He says that Phil's our go-to guy when it comes to AdWords strategies. So if you have experience, you're still going to get a lot of advice from the step-by-step guide. Sean O'Grady, we've seen him a lot in this presentation. He said it was exactly what I needed to get my business off to the right start. We basically helped him with an AdWords campaign, and within just a couple days, he generated 34 scheduled visits for his new practice in San Francisco. So everything you'll get here is a 42-minute CD audio recording, plus you'll get instant access to the digital file. So you'll get the MP3 audio if you want to listen to it on your computer or your iPod. You'll also get the 77-page PDF ebook. Again, just ask that you pay shipping and handling. And here's the link to go grab your copy, mainstreetroi.com/AdWords guide, or you can call Andrea, who's our client services manager, 646-470-3753, extension 20. And with that, McKay, let's open up the Q&A. I apologize for running a little bit over. I had to rush at the end there.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's good information. We got a few questions. I want to take 5-10 minutes to answer a few of these. And then the ones we're not able to get to, I'll send those over to Phil, and he can respond to them individually as he sees fit. So let's start here. Linda asked a really good question. She said, For AdWords specifically, do you find that B2C campaigns are more successful than B2B campaigns? I know you guys don't do a lot of work in the B2B space, but obviously you guys are a B2B company, so I'm curious if you could speak on that.
Yeah, I actually see a lot of success in both. So one of my biggest clients is B2B, and we're advertising about $150,000 to $200,000 a month just on Google AdWords. So I've seen a lot of success B2B, but seen a lot of success with B2C as well. So I can't say one works better than the other, and it really comes, especially when we're talking about Google search, it just comes down to whether or not the prospect is going to Google to search for your product or service. So in some cases that is not the case. So I have worked with clients on other projects other than Google AdWords just because search marketing was not a good solution. No one was going to Google to find what they had to offer. It was a medical device company. No one had really, if no one's heard of your product and it's not something that they're going to think to search for, it's not going to make sense. But if they are searching, and you can find that again by going to Google's keyword tool, just play around with that to see if there's any search volume for your target keywords, and that'll tell you right away whether or not it's going to be a good opportunity.
That makes sense. The other question here that I'm scrolling through the questions here to find the most sort of useful. You mentioned landing pages. What do you recommend for somebody to set up a landing page? Can you direct businesses as to where they can go to set up landing pages for their PPC campaigns? Do you help with that? Do you recommend a service? What's the process to go set a landing page for small businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question in terms of, do we help businesses? We do, in fact, help businesses with the setup process and the management in terms of, getting that campaign set up, getting the landing pages set up. If you want to do it yourself, there is a great tool out there that I recommend called Unbounce, and that's UN and then bounce.com. That's a great tool that I've played around with. I forget what their pricing is, so you'll have to take a look at that. I don't think it's too expensive. But if you're not tech savvy, that's a great tool. If you have a webmaster, it really comes down to just getting the copy correct on your landing pages. And I mentioned it on this webinar, really being focused and try not to get lazy with your landing pages. So don't reuse the landing page unless it's really laser focused on that keyword and the ad. So if you ever change the offer in your ad, you really need to send that traffic to a unique landing page that matches the copy in the ad. So I guess one other key takeaway from this is don't get too caught up in making your landing page pretty. A lot of times I've found that ugly landing pages work perfectly fine, but you need to have the congruency from keyword to ad to landing page. That's really the most important factor. Get that right, and then work on prettying up your landing page.
Great. And then we've had a few people ask this question. If they're selling maybe a product as opposed to a service or something like that, if they're selling an e-commerce product, how does the rule change, or does it, for PPC or for AdWords specifically? Is there any rule change, or does everything you cover still apply to e-commerce products as they would with any other type of business?
Yeah, e-commerce is even easier in terms of tracking. You're going to have so much more data. So the problem with services and offline sales is it happens off of the web page. So tracking, you have to have a mechanism in place to be able to track the sale off of the website. Now with e-commerce, everything's going to happen online, and I love generating sales for e-commerce businesses with Google AdWords because you can actually send the revenue data back into Google AdWords, and you'll see ROI. It's right there. You'll see the value per sale, and you'll see the cost per sale. And if you have enough sales volume, there's a lot of tools in Google AdWords to automate a lot of the bidding. So you can basically tell Google AdWords, hey, I want to bid and make sure I have a 20% profit margin based on the revenue and the cost per sale, and you're getting all that because in a typical e-commerce site you can send that data on the thank you page or the receipt page back to Google AdWords. I got a little technical there, I apologize for that, but long story short, nothing changes in terms of the steps I went through, but it gets kind of even better in terms of tracking. If you're an e-commerce site, you get a lot more data, and you can automate a lot of that a little bit more easily.
Sure, the data is obviously going to be a little bit better because you control the whole purchase process from start to finish. One more question and then we'll be done, and there's a lot of great questions, everybody, today. We appreciate the questions. You mentioned tracking a lot, conversion tracking. You mentioned tracking calls. Just speak generally to the importance of tracking PPC efforts. And then specifically in the local space, I mean, we've done a lot of research on this. Calls are extremely important. Just talk about tracking generally and then maybe specifically the importance of tracking calls from AdWords.
Sure, yeah, and that's a critical component. So I just mentioned excuse me, tracking sales online for e-commerce. Definitely a lot easier than tracking sales for a services business. But it is possible, and one of the most critical elements you need is call tracking. So you're going to advertise, people are going to click on your ad, they're going to go to your landing page, and then a lot of them are going to call if you're a services business versus, they're not going to make the purchase right on your website. But you absolutely need to track those calls. It is possible to track those calls, and you can match phone calls back to the keyword or the ad group or the campaign that generated that phone call, and then as long as you have a process internally to intake those calls and document how many turn into sales, that's how you can then calculate your return on investment. So as long as you're tracking the number of calls, you're tracking those calls through your sales team, and typically you'll use a CRM system to do that, like a Salesforce, Act, or Infusionsoft. Those are just customer relationship management systems where you can input the lead that you received, say that it came from Google AdWords, and then be able to run reports on a monthly or quarterly basis to see how much money you generated from those ads and how much it costs. That's how you can calculate your return on investment. And then one thing I did not touch on was just contact forms. You absolutely want to be able to track how many people complete a contact form on your website. And those are really the two primary ways that people are going to contact you. Either they're going to pick up the phone and call you, in which case you need to have call tracking in place, or they're going to submit a form, and that's just the same as an e-commerce site. You want to use that Google AdWords conversion tracking, and you can see how many leads are being generated from your ad campaign.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Everybody, we've got a lot of good questions. We'll reach out to you individually with some answers to these as well. So thanks for asking us. Everybody, thanks for showing up for the webinar today. 3 quick points before we close. First, the webinar, it has been and is being recorded. You'll be sent the recording tomorrow morning, first thing. If you want to access it sometime this afternoon, the first thing when we actually post it, you can go to logmycalls.com, and then right in the middle of the page, there's a screen that says Webinar Series. Click on that. You'll see this recording in there. Second, we're having people ask a couple of questions about the webinar series itself, how often we have webinars at Log My Calls. We have them every week. We have a great webinar next week, for example, on content marketing, so I encourage you to attend that as well. And then finally, Sandra asks a really good question. She says, which call tracking software would you recommend? Well, Log My Calls, Sandra, for sure. You've got to use Log My Calls, absolutely. So with that, any final words, Phil, before we conclude?
No, and on that point, McKay gave me a demo the other day about Log My Calls, and definitely recommend if you're looking for a tool. It's a great tool, and if you are questioning whether or not you need call tracking, I want to reiterate the fact that you absolutely do. If you try to run your ads and you're not an e-commerce site, it's just going to be, it's pretty much impossible to track your return on investment, in which case you don't know what's working, you can't optimize your campaign. So absolutely get some kind of call tracking in place, and I want to reiterate McKay's point that I do recommend Log My Calls if you need a solution.
Great. Phil, appreciate that. Hey, well, listen, everybody, thank you so much for attending, taking the time out of your day. We appreciate it. Encourage you to sign up for the webinar next week on logmycalls.com, and then watch for the email tomorrow morning that has this webinar recording. So everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Thanks again, Phil.
Thanks.